I want to talk a little bit more about your work in AI and some of the exciting things that are happening in that field, whether it's on some of the current games you're working on, or maybe just some things you're excited about in the future that you see other people doing that inspire you.
Yeah, I think like it's already just recently Unity demonstrated like an animation that was like AI driven, and it's in the video. It says like it gives accessibility to people that want to make games can have like these models, these animated models without the budget and the scale of a team that like a Ubisoft or a Blizzard would have. So I think the advancements from my end. So there's two things about AI, and one is the player experience. So for me, that part, technically doesn't advance much because it's more so the person making the game has to understand like what the AI's role is, and the programmers provide the tools to make that come to life. So the machine learning, which is like a big buzz, and like things of that nature don't tie well into that because you can't really tune it to the gradient that you need. And like there's dialogue, context, all these things that come like with the whole thing. So for me, that stays as is. But what I do love about things that like the surgeon like machine learning provide is the world that you can have. Like so, previously where maybe you needed to spend like a few months programming a vehicle, you can actually get machine learning to learn how to drive in a sense, and then upon that, so the world becomes more believable. Dialogue again, the way autocorrect kind of like picks up on how like you can get a system that picks up on the player's habits and like what they would do, and if there is like a bit of a lag in like a game, it can maybe pick up for them or start to like spawn things around them like that is more of interest, like even generate quests. That is like what I like is that it opens the box of like previously where it's like everything is thought out of, and like a game is in this box with some of the things like that have been around, like procedurally generated worlds and all that. That's been there for a while, but with ML as well, you can kind of get things that are not necessarily in your scope of thought when you made it. Like, so it really does become like systemic in a sense. And the systemic and contextual aspect of gaming, I always love. Like, I love when things around you, like if you have a button like B, it's not always going to do the same thing. It's more based on context. Like, say, B when I'm in combat is to punch, and then B when I'm like talking to somebody is to wave. Like I like that, and I think to that degree where you have like AI systems like machine learning, you can actually gain a better understanding of the context through the player's play cycle. The world itself can learn in a sense and
Mm-hmm.
like change um, parts of it to kind of reflect that. And to me, that's like the next step of gaming where the experience is not always the same. And it's big for like, players playing on like Twitch or whatever. They're like, hey, like, check this out. It's like, oh man, like, I can't believe in your game this happened, because that's essentially real life. You and I can walk down the street and our experiences are going to be totally different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the things that happen on the street when I'm there are going to be different from yours. And like, it's worked in a sense. Like, you've seen it in open world games where like somebody on the street will say something, there's dialogue, whatever, but it's like staged in a way. And I think the next step is with the animation software that we have, with dialogue, with all these things that can kind of like learn off of each other. The
Mm-hmm.
background element can be so much more believable and tied in, but I still feel like the main focus of like boss fights and all that stuff, that player experience will still be not heavily scripted, but still kind of like you're gonna know how you want it to be because you want the player to not be totally surprised there, because it can learn and you can never beat it, and then the player's gonna be like throwing the controller through the
Impossible
gamers are
boss
pretty
fight.
like mad, yeah. So they're and the like designers be like, oh, I don't know how to like tune this. It's like it just learned
Yeah.
like how to beat you. Like I don't know what to do. Like it's like
Yeah.
and like you're dying all the time. So for me, like that a fun element is like feeling that reward. Like, oh, I figured out its weak spot. Like it's like, yeah, you killed it. Like because that's the fun part is like not losing. But
Yeah.
I think the world around you changing and like learning in the sense or like adapting is super cool. And that's something that I personally, not a lot of games and none that I've worked on yet have used machine learning in a way that is like really enhance the game experience. So I'm personally looking forward to the first project and first experience I have where I'm like, okay, like here's machine learning, because the applications that I've used it in have been rather trivial. So
Right.
I'm excited to actually see that like in a proper way.
Thanks for listening to the CG Spectrum podcast. For more on this episode, visit us at cgspectrum.com/podcast. Check out our show notes where you'll find links to our guests and more behind the scenes. And if you're enjoying the show, please like, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening, or share this episode with someone who might like it. See you next time.